with Paul Daner, Mark Shalafoo, from listener questions to some running gags. Insider stories, ambush life, that dad life, and respect for flags. Kick off the weekend, all right? It's the Growler Friday Show. It's Who Dey Light.
All right, welcome into the latest edition of Who Dey Light. Paul Daner Jr., Mark Shalafoo here with you on a Friday, opening day weekend. It's just happiness right now. It's just everybody's in a great mood. Everybody's forgotten already about the top of the ninth inning for the Reds yesterday. It's just good times.
Yeah, just good vibes all the way around. Props to you for even showing up today and soldiering on after really going hard. You're a big opening day guy, right?
Big opening day guy. It's a good. That's the kids on the overnight. Send them away, and we're
that's big.
We have a big day. We do it big, do it right. You can't just like tiptoe into opening day. This is it's a special day. It actually is one of my favorite days in the city, and so we try to go all the way. So I saw a lot of Growl pals out there.
Did you?
Yesterday, mixing it up. It was good. Yeah, it was good.
You saw a lot of so it's nice to know we have a lot of crossover between the Growl pals and baseball fans, and that's why the debut of the new show, Power Stacks, was such a big hit.
Yeah, excited about that. It's a lot of good responses to that. And so they'll have a new episode of Power Stacks. Charlie and Brian will be up on Monday morning and going off some of the themes. I bet Ian Jabot's name will be mentioned probably somewhere in there. So you can plenty of Reds talk to get through whatever goes down the rest of this weekend. But yeah, it was fun. It's cool having that out there now. And I'm excited to see what happens next and with that show.
You're out there opening day. You're getting after it. You're really doing the pre-gaming up right. Do you feel, and running into so many Growl pals, do you feel like you've got to stay a little bit on the straight and narrow since you're representing the brand out there now and being such a public figure in Cincinnati? You've got to really watch yourself out there. You can't just get obliterated like if you were anonymous.
Well, no, I don't. You don't
no. Care. You're just going, just make a,
no, I don't. I mean, I don't know about obliterated. I don't know that I'm capable of getting obliterated anymore. But
sounds like a challenge.
I'm here to have I'm just out to have a good day. I'm in control, but I'm out to have a good day.
Do you have a baseball flag flying right now or something?
Reds flag is up. Yep, Reds flag has been up for about a week now. Just trying to prepare.
Yeah,
get the good vibes out there. You got to do it. So Reds flag's up right now, and it will be unless they get swept this weekend. Then we'll take it down.
Oh no! What would you? Is it back to an Easter flag or something like that, or what's?
Well, Easter. There is an Easter flag. There is an Easter flag. It's a little early for the Easter flag. I'm not totally sure where it'd be a gut feel. We'd have to kind of gauge what's going on. So we'll see. Hopefully the Reds flag can last a little while. I like to get it on a good run. I don't want to feel like I have to take it down too early. So hopefully that works. We got a lot to get to.
We do.
I want to remind everybody, if you missed some of the shows this week, big week for guests this week for us. Steve Palazzolo from Check the Mic, of course, formerly PFF, came on. We did a sort of a bridging the gap between free agency and the draft. He was awesome. Recommend going back and checking that episode out. Mike Giannetti, who runs Spot Track, that does all the contract stuff, was awesome coming on PD&J, kind of helping in layman's terms break down what really matters in the Jamar and T contracts. I know there were some questions that you guys sent in that I'm not going to get to because Mike really covered all that stuff really well. So if you have questions about the contracts and just want to understand what matters in them, go back and listen to that interview with Mike that was on the PD. You should really listen to the whole show. It was really a great show, but the interview with Mike was in there too and answers a lot of the contract questions that you guys had. And then today we're shaking it up a little bit. We're bringing in Luke Null, who is, we only do the comedians who went to OU. We have a very
specific
biography that we need on these people. But so he's Cincinnati guy, OU guy, comedian, was on Saturday Night Live first season, and has a new special that is, I think it is already out. It already came out. Pretty Songs, Dirty Words. Pretty Songs, Dirty Words.
Pretty Songs, Dirty Words.
Go check that out on YouTube. Yep. Go check that out. And so you can go. He's going to come on. We'll talk a little bit about being a Bengal fan, SNL, Cincinnati. We're just gonna. It's gonna be fun. We're gonna mix it up with Luke and see how that goes. It's gonna be a good time. So big week for guests. Big week for guests on Who Dey Light.
It's a good time of year for guests.
Yeah.
There's some lingering questions, some specific things you got to get into with guys, and then it's also like there's not a ton newsy happening right now, so you have an extra comedian in the mix and chop it up, make it a little bit lighter since we've gone so Who Dey dark over the past
Yes.
month or so. It'll be a nice. We're always worried about the vibes here, and so we got to do a little something to improve the light side of our vibes here. So hopefully Luke will help us with that.
Absolutely. Bengals story of the week, favorite story of the week for you, Mark. What do you got?
I'm still trying to cope with the fact that we don't have any guards. I don't know if Lucas Patrick is the total answer or whatever, but I don't know. We got the T and Jamar stuff. I was feeling so good. I was feeling, really high after that, thinking like, all right, now free agency is going to start and I'm ready to go. We're going to maybe get a linebacker, maybe another corner. Let's see how all this money gets spent. And there hasn't been a whole lot happening. Right. And so now I'm trying to figure out how to cope with it and how to mentally sell this to myself. Cause I can talk myself into anything. I talked myself into Geno Stone as your starting safety with Von Bell. And I talked myself into that last offseason, felt real good about it. Felt real good about Sheldon Rankins. And, we saw how that went. But so I'm trying to figure out what the right approach is mentally just to get through this fact that we did not get anybody else of impact. Here's what I'm coming around to. Maybe it was just a bad free agency class. You look at some of the top free agents before all these deals got done and everything. T. Higgins was number one. BJ Hill was so much higher on the list than I thought he would be of potential free agents. So bringing back your own guys, I mean, maybe that's just the only recipe for this year of free agency.
It wasn't a good free agent class. And as far as coping, I think let's play this out. Let's do this as a little exercise here. How are we going to make you feel better? I do think, you can say it still will be a much better line than they had last year, just because, I mean, Kappa and Volson were so bad. Like they were amongst the worst. I mean, in some cases, the literal worst in terms of pass pro and your ratings and pressures allowed and all that stuff. So anybody theoretically can be better. I mean, the way Lucas Patrick played for New Orleans last year was significantly better than what was happening here. So, and could Cody Ford be better than what Cordell Volson is? Maybe, like, at the very least, they're the same. It honestly is hard to be worse than what was happening at guard last year. That's not what you want. I'm not here to tell you that's a good answer, but if you're saying the offense was elite last year and Burrow had a career year and the line will be better than that, I think that's good. Theoretically, you get a full year of Orlando Brown, and year 2 of Mims could be a star. Ted Karras is still here. I think you feel better. Another year of Chase Brown. I just feel like the offense is going to be in a really good place. The concern is Joe Burrow taking too many hits, as it always is. And that's not going to make you feel good. The idea that, some of the stuff that was happening last year could continue, but there's still hope. You could still really hit in the draft. Maybe Brandon Sheriff ends up being an answer down the line. It's not totally over in that regard. And it's hard to be worse at guard. And so that's how I do to help you cope. That's my coping mechanism for you.
Thank you. That at least makes me feel a little bit better about that. And you know what? I'm trying to talk myself into the fact that Jamar's not going to be wearing a hat for the entire training camp. That's got to help. The vibes should be better this year. We were so concerned about the vibes in Cincinnati last year. So maybe the vibe shift is going to help us too.
I would expect, there's going to be a real feeling of we've heard so much about attacking the early part of the season. I think you're going to feel that urgency with the team, with camp, with taking the first month more seriously than they ever have. Not that they haven't before, but we've seen how it's gone. So I think there's, a renewed approach to trying specifically be better at that. I think will help everybody. And if they can get off to that fast start, that's great. You'd love to see more of happen in free agency, and the shine is gone off those deals. And you're like, there's still a lot of things that did not get done. And, so that's going to be a problem, but they'll power through. We'll see. We'll see. They got to win the draft. They got to hit on the draft, and so we're going to spend the next month talking about that.
That did make me feel good too. And I'm trying to not think about how last year's draft went and some of the potential misses. But I was reading the mock draft 1.0. That made me feel good. There was some good hope in that. I liked what you did with that in your story and some of the guys that you took for Cincy. So looking at that, I was like, okay, some of these holes could be filled with some young guys that I like a lot. Paul sold me on them. I would roll with that team. So I like that. Go read that if you haven't.
Yeah, no, yeah. 1.0 is out there. It's my favorite one to do, just because we have a real feel after free agency. And so we did the beat writer mock, which is a lot of teams who now have a better feel for what their teams are actually going to do. And so you saw people, Mike Green was the first round pick out of Marshall. Tate Ratledge, who we've spent some time talking about out of Georgia, could be a guy who could come in and play next to Amarius Mims. And you feel like you can find a starter. You just end up asking a lot of rookies to come in and play right away, and if they're not first round picks. But you can fill these spots out. Like, it's not like they're going to draft people and you can't draft Jackson Carman. You can't miss. They're not in a position that they can do that. It would set them back a long way if they whiff in this draft. And so that's the scary part. It's just there's a ton on the line. It feels like they have more pressure on this draft than they have had in a long time because of the way that they sort of have pigeonholed themselves.
Well, they're due for some big hits, I feel like. What was your biggest, your favorite story of the week? Favorite Bengals thing?
So I can't help but laugh at I don't know if laugh's the right word, but just be amused by the Jamar Chase and T. Higgins street racing videos. Have you seen this?
I have. I just saw it right before we recorded. As you alerted me to the existence of them.
Yeah. So it's like it kind of came out earlier this week. It was like, here's videos of T and Jamar racing these like $250,000 Lamborghinis around Miami at high speeds. And I just try to imagine what the reaction is in like the front office in the morning meeting. Like, any news? Yeah, these videos came out of T and Jamar. We just gave them all that money. They're racing Lamborghinis around Miami. It looks to be more revving engines than actual dangerous street racing, but we don't know how much was left off these videos. Jamar was posting them on Instagram, and it's just like, that's got to be like, really already? The moment after the contract, you got to worry about you. Here's the like racing Lamborghinis around Miami. Can you just give me a month? You do that in the summer, and not so it's just so immediate. Of having to see that, and maybe there's a different hobby. Maybe it could be like, look, I'm a swimmer now. Look, here's me swimming. That's or something that feels a little bit better than I'm going to be.
That's such a nice way to show off your wealth, is to go swimming. Maybe
in a really elaborate pool.
Yeah,
gold coins like Scrooge McDuck.
Yeah. That might mess up your shoulder diving into that. I've always wondered that. You know what? I think that could be a good bonding activity, though. The racing, you get those guys in their Lambos, and you get the rest of the receivers room there. So you've got like Jermaine Burton just on a bike way behind everybody else because he doesn't have that money yet. I feel like that'd be a good, really bonding activity for all of them. I'm fine with this.
And then Burrow's got the Batmobile behind him probably at some point, you would think. And so is that, back in the day when, I worked at newspapers and I loved the like season preview, Bengals season preview every year, there'd be some fancy artwork. Like when it was T.O. and Chad and they were Batman and Robin, they had them they had like a Batmobile shoot or whatever. Would it be like the two of them in their Lamborghinis and Joe in the Batmobile on the field as the like cover art for the season preview? Is that what it'll be?
Like a Too Fast, Too Furious type thing. Like, I think they need to do some videos together with the Lambos and the Batmobile and kind of get it all going. I'm fine with this too, by the way. You told me about this and I was like, oh God, what is this going to be? And the video that I saw, it didn't even seem that extreme. It seemed like they were like, like you said, a lot of revving. They weren't, it didn't seem as dangerous as some of what I was expecting. I think they weren't like zigzagging through traffic a ton and really endangering the lives of civilians. You got to unwind after you sign a big deal, whether it's Lamborghinis or buying a Batmobile and handing out ninja swords. I like that we've got some of this youthful exuberance for life. Football, that's a kid's game at first. So you got to keep that joy. And so these guys still have that youthful joy, and it's just expanding in different ways now with different vehicles and weapons. I like it.
Different vehicles and weapons. I how you have, when college teams arrive, there's always the fans will line like the street where the bus goes and cheer them on. They have like, the dog walk in Georgia or whatever. Like it's always stuff like that. And they high five. Do they line the streets and here comes in like flying V formation, the Batmobile, the 2 Lamborghinis and Burton on the bike? Like they come down they come down Maring and everyone like cheers them on, and then they go into the player parking lot revving their engines the whole way. Like, is that it become a tradition for the next
I would love
4
that
years?
tradition. Or let's at least use all 3 vehicles in the Super Bowl parade when that does happen someday. Don't put them on a float. You let them drive those cars that they're so synonymous with at this point. You let them take those around.
I love it. So that was just a little thing that I found amusing this week, that how quickly is like, man, they just signed the deal and now we're already like, you have to hear about something like this happening and make you nervous. I am headed to West Palm Beach.
Nice.
I'm like Florida man. This will be my 3rd time in Florida in like 6 weeks. We did Disney. We just did a little vacation in Clearwater, and now West Palm Beach for the owners meetings. So they're Monday and Tuesday down there. So we'll speak to Katie Blackburn. It's one time a year that she talks. So that'll be really the biggest thing happening down there. That'll be on Tuesday, it looks like. And so we'll see what she has to say. She'll talk. I'm sure we'll be asking about the T. Higgins stuff and Jamar Chase and their contracts and Hendrickson and the stadium, though, is going to be a big talking point too, just because that deadline is in the near future, and this will be one of the few times we can talk to Katie about that and maybe where that stands. I know that makes Bengals fans happy. Oh, I love stadium talk. It's so enthralling, but that'll be a big talking point coming out of that. But they also have the coaches breakfast. I don't know how familiar people are with the coaches breakfast, but they take all of the coaches and they put them in this big ballroom, and each coach has a big is like on a big round table, and anybody can come up and ask questions. They're there for about 45 minutes or an hour, and there's a big buffet of food. It used to be that coaches would actually eat. They'd sit there and you would actually eat breakfast with them, and then so you could judge their choices of eggs, or like there's a meme that went around of Bill Belichick drinking orange juice that people may have seen. That was from that. Like, and so there's a lot. There could always be. I always was judging Marvin's fruit choices. I always felt like he had some question. He was weirdly like a cantaloupe and honeydew guy more than you'd think. So there's always a lot of judgment happening there. But now it's a good chance to get more information, have a longer sit down with Zach Taylor, and then they'll do the NFC coaches on Tuesday. So there'll be some stuff coming out of that too. So look for that next week. So I'll be doing the show from West Palm probably on Monday with some reaction from that. So keep an eye out for that.
Thank you for clarifying that it's a work trip and not that you're just taking, 3 vacations in 3 months to Florida. All that podcast money going straight to your head,
Yeah. I don't know about that.
Why do they make them eat breakfast? Why can't it just be like an interview session? Why does food have to be part of that ritual where it's like, I'm going to gnaw on this muffin while I'm trying to talk to you about my 4-3 defense?
Well, it was originally much more low key. This is like a lot of these like Senior Bowl, Combine, there's a million people credentialed, like just tons of people credentialed. This tends to be a little bit more of the real beat writers. It's more expensive. It's at the Breakers, which is this insane complex basically in West Palm Beach. And so it's just a little tighter group. And so it used to be much smaller, even where it was intimate like that. You literally would just have breakfast with the coach, and there weren't TV cameras as much, stuff like now. It's just everybody goes, everybody's got cameras. It's become a different thing that it was originally. And so I think it's just called the coach's breakfast, even though it kind of is just a media session, and most of them just eat afterwards now, rather than getting caught reacting to a question about Trey Hendrickson with, oatmeal in their mouth.
Yeah.
It's not good for anybody.
Well, I hope, and now that you will become Florida man, I hope you at least look the part on whatever podcast you do from there. Like, get the Hawaiian. You got to be like Florida Stanley from The Office. You totally change your persona, really live it up down there. So hopefully you're bringing those vibes next week on the show.
I'll do
And
my
I like
best.
it. I like that it's the only time of year that Katie talks. You make it seem like she's a silent monk or something like that, and this is the one time of year she's actually allowed to speak.
Yeah, she's not one for media. Like, I mean, it's not her thing. And some owners and family members of owners, like they're about it. They want to be in front of the camera as much as possible and Jerry Jonesing it. That's not the Brown Blackburn family. And so when you do get a chance to, you want to make sure you're there. So we'll be there and we'll tell you what all goes down. And if you guys have any questions that you'd like asked to Katie, the Growler Podcast at gmail.com. Go ahead and send those over, and we'll put them into consideration.
Yeah, we'll send you with a big list, like you're Santa. You pull it out, you get a big requests on there, and just start hitting her with the Growl Pal questions. I like that.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we should take a minute to recognize our guy Eric Sztanyo, Keller Williams. Shout out to the contest. The contest was wild.
It was crazy.
Like it's the season. He gave away season tickets. Keller Williams, Eric Sztanyo, gave away season tickets to the Bengals, and the phones were lit up. I was telling Jay, I was like, I think this might be the first time the Growl Pals broke a server. It felt like it was just old school phone lines, but it was a lot of work for everybody there trying to answer all the calls that the Growl Pals had trying to win season tickets. He told me apparently Bengals fans really want Bengals season tickets. Shocking development there. But shout out to him and everybody, Keller Williams, for doing that, doing the giveaway. Of course, he's the dude. He's out here, his YouTube channel, Team Sztanyo. You can email directly info@teamsztanyo.com or go to www.teamsztanyo.com to connect with him. Anybody, if you know anybody buying or selling, I talked to somebody just yesterday at opening day who is working with Sztanyo, hasn't bought or sold yet, but working with him now. And I'm just like, man, nice. It's just everywhere, bringing everybody together. And so hopefully, if you guys know anybody, get them in contact with Eric Sztanyo.
This is the busy season for buying and selling homes. Eric Sztanyo is a real estate agent. I feel like we haven't mentioned that this far into the ad. Like we did plug the YouTube. But if this is your first time listening to the show, yes, he's the realtor.
Yeah, so first time listeners
and
might know that background.
Right, yeah. So if you're buying, selling a house, somebody that is. It's a tricky thing to go through. A lot of people just trust whatever family member they have that declares themselves a real estate agent because they did the classes and they flamed out of their marketing career or whatever it is. You don't want to just trust a random cousin with that or somebody you knew from high school. If you're buying or selling a house, you want to trust somebody that knows the game. Sztanyo knows the game, and you keep the business in the family. It's just going to help all of the Growl Pals.
Yeah, absolutely. Go support them. All right. Do we have some questions?
We sure do. And we also got some good Twitter questions this week. So you can also send those to at the Growler Podcast on X. And make sure you follow us on all the social media platforms. Do that. So we're just going to kick it off right with a few from Twitter, a few quick ones. With Sam Hubbard gone, which defensive end? And we're still imagining Trey's not traded because we don't think that's going to happen. But so imagining Trey still in his spot, which defensive end is starting opposite of him? Is it going to be a camp battle? Do you think it's Miles Murphy's job, or do you think it's Osai from day one?
We can't have a show where I don't get a chance to talk about Miles Murphy. It's like it happens basically every show. He's the guy. They want him to be the guy. Like everything they've done has been belief in Miles Murphy to play more. He's a first-round pick. They think he's going to be good. They think he hasn't played enough. They're going to give him the opportunity to be the guy. And that's, I think, what this is, where it starts. The rest, granted, if they pick somebody 17 overall, who's an edge rusher, if it is, there's going to be heavy involvement of that player, no question. But I think their thought is kind of, we have a first round pick who's an edge rusher. And so we're going to use him. And so I think he is set up to be the guy. Now, maybe they have a little bet on Joseph Osai there. Maybe he can build on what he was doing the end of last year. Maybe he just is better and he ends up winning that job. It's still a competition, but I think it's viewed as Miles Murphy's job. Like, that's who they want it to be in an ideal world.
Good to know. That it's it definitely will be an interesting one to watch to see, because Osai beat him out right at the end of last season, or was that just a Lou thing?
It was a Lou thing
more than Murphy, or do you think that he just outplayed him?
I think they felt like he was outplaying him, and they felt like they were getting more from Osai. That was a Lou thing though, and so maybe Al Golden will have a different thing. We don't know.
We talked about mock draft 1.0. And we did get a question about that. So they want to know, this guy wants to know, when you're doing these mock drafts for the Bengals, are you saying who you would pick if you were in their position, or are you predicting who the Bengals front office will take?
I'm predicting the Bengals. I'm not out here to try to say that this is me as GM. I don't think that, matters. Like, I don't, what I think, I'm happy to offer that, but I think it's more important to use the insight I have on how I think they're approaching it and what they're going to do, so you can understand what they potentially will do or the decisions that they're weighing. So I try not to get too much into this is what I would do, because that really doesn't matter. No, I know they all listen. So say hi to Duke and Mike Potts and everybody that's listening. It's good. Thank you guys for being Growl Pals. But like, I don't think they're listening to what I have to say or care about that. So I try to focus on predicting and knowing what they're looking for, things I've been told about what they're looking for, and try to give you guys a good snapshot of it.
So you just went through the mock draft process. We have one last question about that. This is from Tim, another Twitter question. He was kind of curious how that first round shook out, and if there are any prospects that should worry Bengals fans about an AFC North team taking. It always seems like there's a really good dude that falls to the Ravens much later than he should. Like, I feel like that sort of recipe happens a lot. Were there any terrifying prospects in that first mock draft that went to a different team?
Well, from that one, if I would say you'd probably be most, let's see, who did they give Cleveland? They did Abdul Carter. I think the idea of Abdul Carter and Myles Garrett on the same team,
that's scary.
It is scary, but you know what? It's why you have Orlando Brown and Amarius Mims, and I'd be more scared. I don't think you want to see. You don't want to have to live with Mason Graham in this division. At defensive tackle, considering the problems they've had at guard and will have potentially at guard. I don't think you want to see somebody who's just going to be a menace at that spot in this division. That would be scary. I got to tell you, and I don't know what's going to happen next with, Cleveland. They're irrelevant until they get their quarterback situation fixed. So I'd be nervous about Shedeur Sanders going to Cleveland if that does end up being the case, because if Kevin Stefanski sees Sanders as a real guy that he can get to play well, that is how they can offset the Deshaun Watson debacle that's ruined the current state of their franchise. And if they figure that out and say, we think he's a guy, and Stefanski has a good track record of making even the Joe Flaccos of the world be able to win games for him, they could all of a sudden become much more relevant in this division. And so I would be nervous about Shedeur Sanders there. I think, what the Ravens, what was the Ravens pick here? I'm trying to remember Kenneth Grant to Pittsburgh. You don't like that. You don't want to see. Keanu Benton is going to be a real dude for them. He's really coming on. They already have Cam Hayward there. You just add another game wrecker in the middle. Again, we mentioned any of these really good defensive tackles, you probably just don't want to see them right now with the state of the Bengals line. And so I think that's certainly a scary player. And the Ravens are going to, whoever the Ravens draft will be scary, because that's just how they draft, and it always ends up that way.
Yep. So we also had one guy, this is less of a question and more of a request, but we had somebody that wants to sign up a Growler podcast team for his golf outing in late May. And he offered free beer. So this is something that we need to consider for the off-season period here. Maybe we start doing appearances at like golf outings and church festivals, pie eating contests, and it's kind of really worked the circuit like we're politicians running for re-election or something like that. How do you feel about working the community?
Are you going to be our designated pie eater, or are we each going to have?
We're judges. We're judging the pie eating contest.
We're judging. Okay, good. Because I didn't know that I was going to be capable. We did see Joey Chestnut at opening day yesterday. That was good to see. With a disappointing hot dog eating performance on the video board, by the way. Really expected to see like him have 10 dogs lined up and just crush them, and it was way too simple. I didn't think he lived up to his reputation.
Was he there just as a fan, or was it like a paid
He was in the suite. He was in one of the maybe the party deck. I'm not sure where he was, but yeah, he was there.
And so he didn't
put him
just
up there, and he ate one real quick, and didn't really like that. There wasn't much to it. I was like, I had expectations of him lining up a 10-dog salute for everybody real quick.
You've got to at least have them for the visual, drop that money just so you have that, so people get psyched. And even if you're not going to plow through all 10, that does make it seem like he was just there as a person rather than like the Reds being like, what we need for opening day juice? Let's throw 25 grand at Joey Chestnut, have him eat 5 hot dogs in 10 seconds on the Jumbotron. That'll be the big ticket.
Hey, people are talking about it, but I don't know if we have. I just didn't want to have to get in a situation where, like, okay, I guess I'm the bratwurst eating contest guy, and you're gonna be how many Geta sandwiches can you eat, whatever it is. I'm all for the church festival tour, big church festival guy. So I'm all about that. We can find an in for us in the church festival market. I'm all for it.
So you don't want to like just play in random golf outings or
I'm happy to play in a random golf outing. I feel like weekends are a little harder to find time, but I'm always open to it.
It would also be a little tricky. So who's on our Growler podcast golf outing team? Is Jay a golfer?
Jay's not really a golfer, no.
I can't imagine. So Mo golfs. I can't imagine that Charlie owns golf clubs if he doesn't own forks. Like I can't imagine he's out there on the links. So that might be a little bit tricky. We might need to figure out a fourth. I guess.
Might need a fourth. Yeah. Maybe maybe Brian Giesenslaw. Maybe Brian is probably a pretty good golfer. Sticks. I feel like he's a good golfer. Yeah.
You ready for some that came through the email? Some properly sent questions.
Fire it up.
Are you surprised that Jermaine Pratt has not been traded or released yet?
Yeah, I think yes, but partially because I think the thought was that they were going to get somebody in free agency and then release him. And so now that they haven't really replaced him, they're not going to probably make that move until they feel like they do. So maybe it'll be after the draft. Maybe something changes. But yeah, a little bit. But I think it's mostly a product of what went down in free agency. So they'll still be kicking the tires and looking at some of the linebackers that are still available. And maybe when that happens, maybe then you'll see, the move for Pratt.
Next question's from Kyle here. He says, hey guys, love the show and all the new stuff you're doing. I feel way more plugged in than the average fan because of all the great content you guys share. Great start, Kyle. We need to get back to this. We need to get back to people opening their emails with flowering praise and compliments for us. That is how you get on the list. He says, anyways, as you look around the league, you see stories of guys playing multiple positions on the offensive line, some better than others, kind of like Mekhi Becton. I understand the pick 17 is too rich for a guard, but could the Bengals possibly draft a tackle at 17 and play them at guard the first season or two and have them play as a possible tackle filler down the road if Mims or Orlando Brown move on? So I guess a guard that's a swing tackle.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's exactly as you lined it up here in this question. I mean, that is how it probably has to be. If you're talking about a first round pick, is going to be somebody that has tackle upside that can do both. And there's a bunch of those guys. I mean, you talk about Kelvin Banks from Texas is a perfect example of that, of a guy who played great tackle, but maybe projects better to being a dominant guard, but obviously has proven he can do that. There's a number of guys like that in this draft that you could see. And if you look at, you look at a lot of the people that they have brought in, or they're doing top 30s with, or that they've done visits with, there's been a lot of tackles in there, and they're looking there for sure. They don't have a swing tackle. And so the idea of having a swing tackle who could maybe be your starting guard, I think is a really enticing idea right now. And so we'll see where this goes, but I think that's what it would have to be at 17. It would have to be someone that you see as probably your swing tackle option as well, but can come in and play guard for you, because you're not going to be as willing to just pick a guard at that spot when you consider some of the high-end talent that would be there. Steve was talking about that. Palazzolo was talking about that, about how there's not really, a player here that fits that conversation. You probably would just wait for the second and third round for a straight guard.
That makes sense. Definitely a lot of holes to look forward to filling with that draft perfectly.
So many,
every single.
They need more picks so bad.
So we get this question a lot. This is our last question with this batch, but so this is from Chris, and I know we've kind of talked a little bit about this at some point, but he said, with the need for premier talent and such a thin margin of error for this draft, do the Bengals draft like they have in the past and just kind of focus on high character guys and captains, or do you think they go best player with a chance of some real character flaws or work ethic problems? I know Mike Green, you had him going to the Bengals in your mock draft. He's got some issues or some red flags or something like that.
Yeah.
So you think probably the Bengals might be open to a guy like that?
Yeah, I think it depends on, every case is unique. I think that they'd be open to it. Certainly when you get into the character issue, to me, that they would have a problem with is more an effort thing. Like, did a guy play hard? Was he a good teammate? They are traditionally not as turned off by stuff that is more off the field issues, especially stuff that doesn't have any charges filed type stuff. Like, that's kind of always been the message, is if they're, for the most part, like if there aren't charges filed, they feel like, what are we supposed to go off of? We feel like there's a lot of things that are said and whatever. I'm not speaking specifically about any case, but like if you're talking about things that have happened in the past, the Bengals have been willing to pick players if the character thing doesn't, maybe it does, but it's all settled, involve charges. Joe Mixon is an example. His case was settled before they drafted him, and they felt like that was enough to feel like they can go forward with Joe as a player, and that one did work out for them in terms of what he brought to the franchise for a number of years. And so, using that as a specific example, I see them willing to do that in terms of character issues. The character issues that they will be reluctant to go forward are things of effort and being a good teammate, and that maybe is lingering around some of these guys, and you hear that with guys every year. And so that is where I think they would lean away and feel like they can learn some lessons from recent years, even though Duke famously said that they didn't really learn lessons. It was just a risk they were willing to take. So I think they're probably still in that same boat, but yeah, they're going to lean. I would expect them to lean into what they have done. The ball loving coaches, sons and captains. Yeah, that's still going to be something that they want to do.
I mean, you mentioned the no lessons learned thing. I've got to feel like there had to have been a few lessons learned, right? Because even now you're reading all this, I'm reading all these, news updates and stuff about like, oh, this prospect is meeting with the team, or he's got a visit, and that sort of stuff as they're trying to vet some of these guys. Do you think that's going to change the interview process as they talk to players before the draft? Maybe work in a like, hey, how much do you like slot machines question, that kind of thing? Do you read your playbook?
Yeah. Have you ever read your playbook? I don't. The Burton thing is just such a unique case. It's so hard. I mean, it's so hard to use that and compare it to anybody. There's really not really been a person quite like him, that's come along. So it feels a little bit more of an outlier rather than something to draw conclusions off of in that regard, in terms of like what's going to affect their process. I think that they might be a little less willing to take a similar type of personality risk. But again, if the player's right, that's something that you have to weigh when you get later in the draft.
Yeah, I apologize for throwing in a silly addendum to that question. I wasn't super worried about them asking about the gambling habits of players, but thank you for taking it and giving it some serious thought as we wrap up this portion of it. Remember to send your questions to the Growler Podcast at gmail.com. And if you have any questions for Katie, you can send those along before, when is it, Monday, Tuesday, something like that.
Tuesday. Yeah, Tuesday.
And I'm sure you'll come up with some great questions on your own, even if people don't get them
I
in
don't know
on
that
time.
I don't know that I need any, but you guys always have great questions and great ideas, and I'm always here for whatever you guys want to hear, and we'll weigh that with the ones that I already have ready.
They're smart people, the Growl Pals. They know what's up. And
No
we
question.
also had an Ambush Light question last week, an Ambush Light mystery that was solved by a Growl Pal.
Yes. We had the email came in and it ended with "thank you for everything you do to your bodies," and it made me feel pretty fat. I'm not gonna lie. It didn't make me feel good about
You took it personally. Yep.
Have I let myself go that bad that people are saying thank you for everything you do to your bodies? Well, I should have known this. I think I even saw this when it first became a viral thing. It's from a viral video of a wrestling fan, basically just emotionally telling everyone that is in wrestling that thank you for everything you do to your bodies. It's real to me. And so it wasn't necessarily about us looking unkempt, but it was from a viral video that I didn't quite know. I'm not as hip as I like to think that I am, but I still appreciate it. But we solved the mystery. And it makes me feel a little bit better about myself. Still not great, but it makes me feel a little bit better.
It is kind of a red flag that you would read that and it's ambiguous enough, and then you take it as a personal insight, personal slight, a personal attack. That probably says a little bit about where you are mentally, but I do appreciate the fact that this has been clarified, and it just reassures me that the Growl Pals are always going for something funny rather than something malicious. There's not a lot of negativity coming from them directed towards us, right? They're always going for that joke. That's what we appreciate, and that's another piece of evidence towards that. So good on the Growl Pals.
Good on the Growl Pals. Good on the Growl Pals. All right, let's take this opportunity and let's bring in Luke Null. All right, so now here's Luke Null. For those of you who don't know Luke, you should know Luke. First of all, he's from Cincinnati.
That's right.
Most importantly, he's an OU guy, and a season on SNL, season 43, and a comedian. Maybe you've seen, if you've been going through YouTube just wanting to laugh. His new special, Pretty Songs, Dirty Words, is out now. You can check it out. Luke, what is up?
Guys, what is up? I was immediately fired from SNL the second they found out that I was a Bengals fan. They went, "You got to go." They go, "There's the door."
There's the one line you can't cross. That maybe
exactly.
There's one or two others, but that's a big one. Get rid of the Bengals fan. First off, just before we really get rolling here, obviously go watch Luke's special on YouTube. Totally different era, so you can actually watch YouTube stuff on your TV these days. So it looks great. That's the best way to consume it. But if you're watching this podcast, which I'm always shocked at how many people do watch instead of listen on an app or whatever, Luke is rocking the killer jacket.
Yeah.
You got to tell us a little bit about, why or where or,
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So I have a bad habit of buying so much Bengals stuff nonstop. And my wife is like, she had a rule last year. She goes, if you don't wear it, all your Bengals junk once per year, it's got to be disappeared. It's got to go. And she's a big fan of non-Bengals official sanctioned merch. So stuff that looks Bengalsy, has a built-in bottle opener.
Wow.
For utility.
That's awesome.
About your business right there. That is
real dumb.
Where do you find something like that? Like, where do you go? Is just a guy, is there a vendor on the street who sells like tiger blazers?
Yeah, there's just a lunatic that lives in LA who's like, beside a dumpster fire, who just makes these. Yeah. I have no idea where she found this, but I was like, yeah, I'm doing that. I'm sporting that bad boy for sure.
That's incredible. Now, just for background, I mean, you're from here. You've been you're a hardcore Bengals fan. Do you catch many road games? Are you like are you on the circuit? You're not on the
yeah.
circuit with our boy Mike Turner, are you? He is the circuit, right? He does all the away games. Have you gone with him on any of these?
I have gone with Michael Turner on some away games. I was with him 2 years ago in Arizona, and he does shows at all the away games for the Bengals fans that are in town. And we were at that Arizona game 2 years ago. That was kind of like a get right game. And of course, I didn't know he was going to be sitting like 5 feet away from me, but I was like, of course, cheapest tickets possible. All right, sick. And then I will always bother the Bengals brass to give me some tickets when I'm in town. And again, they'll put me in the farthest top left corner. And I'm like, thank you so much, Bengals. But there was a 1 year where they were kind enough to give me tickets to 2 games, and those games were the Tua fencing knockout reaction game and the DeMar Hamlin game. So I just saw the most brutal injuries. I'm just like, I need to stop. I'm bad luck. People get injured when I'm watching.
People aren't digging the Blazer as much when there's fans crying in the stands and stuff like that, hugging each other. And you're like, who needs a bottle opener inside my jacket here? Let's go.
Exactly. And me and Mark, I don't know where we did a show together, but we did a show together at one point.
Yeah, I want to say it was probably maybe Motor, something like that.
That sounds about right.
There was a killer show there for a while. What are your favorite venues in Cincy when you do shows locally?
I mean, I have done a Go Bananas, but the last time I was in town, I did the Comet. Shout out to Wayne Mann.
Comet's fun. Comet's a good room. That's especially because it's like a nice, like 60, 70 seats there. And so that can be a real chill vibe over there in North Side and a different spot to watch a show, but a really cool room.
Little North Side action.
Oh, North Side it's unique. You know what I mean? There really is nowhere else in Cincinnati quite like it, and I mean that in the best way possible. What's your? Can you tell me about the SNL experience? Did you make it back to SNL 50? Were you a part of any of that at all? Yeah.
Yes. They had me back.
You talk about like the most star-studded weekend, like even for New York City. Like what? Insane. I gotta know what it was just like to even be around that. Did you get in, what were the festivities like with that?
It was pretty wild. They invited pretty much anyone who was ever on the show to come back for the Radio City Music Hall like concert event. And I get in there and it's like really surreal. Like you said, like the lineup is like insane. It's just a once in a lifetime type of show. And I'm looking around and I'm like, I'm sitting in a theater filled with like 300, 400 people who are all fired by the same guy. We're all here to like celebrate that one guy. And I'm just like, he's going to like fire us again. Like they're going to drop a screen and be like, you're all fired a second time. Thank you for coming. But it was fun. It was very cool to go back and see everyone and, have a, kind of, provided a little closure for my time there, but it was more cool just to see everybody and some old friends that I hadn't seen in a long time.
What is your favorite? Do you have a favorite memory of your time on SNL? Do you look back on it as a great experience at this point?
Definitely a door opener. It kind of like let me do comedy professionally, I'm definitely thankful. Kind of a bad timing for me overall in my year at SNL. They were just like, we don't need another nondescript white guy with no chin. Look at this. They're like, we're good on that. We have that covered. But my favorite, I got to do a sketch with Jack White, which was pretty sick. That was pretty awesome. And that was me just like Hail Mary, like, what if Jack White sings a song with me? And they're like, we'll ask him. But the answer's probably not. But yeah, that was definitely one of my favorite memories. There's been multiple times where like working and doing comedy in LA where I will see some friends I know who have more clout will have like certain NFL players and things roll through on their podcasts, on their whatever it is. And I'm like, if you ever have a Bengals player on and you don't have me on, I'll lose my mind. I'll actually lose my mind.
Yeah. You should get some Ruler of the Jungle action. Can they get you hooked up back here? Get you singing the song, doing the Ruler of the Jungle stuff? They're always looking.
I mean, it would be pretty bottom of the barrel to have me be the ruler. Maybe I'll be the guy that shreds the Welcome to the Jungle solo badly. Like I'll do a bad rendition. I stand a better chance of a Reds first pitch. Now that I feel like I could finagle. And if you don't like blowing a save in the ninth, then you don't like Reds baseball. If you don't like a disappointing opening day loss, why are you even watching?
Yeah, it's what we do. That's great.
Thing. I was gonna say, I feel like I'm a longtime lurker. You know, I'm a Growl pal, longtime lurker, big fan,
Appreciate
love it.
That.
And I will say, like, if I'm getting in a Bengals related argument with some of my buddies in my group chats, the Growler gets cited as a source. Like, according to the Growler,
yeah,
we actually probably should trade him. He's actually not that good. Yeah.
You gotta go glasses down on that for sure.
You have to droop the glasses and go.
That's
the
right.
Growler actually says it's maybe the cap isn't so important or whatever you guys say. But my question to you is, having been a fan and listening for a long time, I'm also a subscriber to The Athletic. Go get it. I just saw that it dinged my card. I got dinged for whatever it is. The
Thank
subscription
you
again, so
for your service.
Absolutely. Appreciate you. Keep up the good work. But my question to you is, in the rotation of Bengals story, like you're constantly having to think of new things to be writing about. What period of the year for you is the most brutal? Like, how am I going to and why is it a spring mini camp that you hate?
No, I gotta tell you, it's actually been quite gratifying to see the coaching staff have the same approach to the summer program that I do, you know, where they don't care about it either and are pretty open about it. And I'm like, yeah, samesies, right? Like, me and you both think this is stupid. I'm glad that we're all on the same page here, because I plan on also giving a half effort through all of this and just checking the box to say that we were here. That's also my approach to it. Yeah, no, I like the summer for a chance to just do literally anything, because it's fun to just think of anything that you can come up with and do longer form stuff that's just off the wall. But to have to sit there, you know, you get some people who, I love everyone on this beat, some take it more seriously in different ways, but the like grinding of the like, what is the 7th round rookie looking like in this walkthrough that no one's taking seriously, you know? And we get those questions too. Like, we see the questions we get in the summer. It's like, how do they look?
We're all starving.
They look
we're starving.
They look disinterested. Yeah.
I like that you always have an addendum that you always add, which is like, he looked good in shorts. He's in shorts. Yeah. He's jogging. He's not.
Yes. Very fit. Very strong.
Right. Luke, when you're not on the road for a stand-up, right, during football season, because I remember living in New York, there was always a good Bengals bar to go catch games at. Do you have a spot to watch games, or you got like a nice setup at home? How you watching out there in LA?
So, you know, you try to support and really do that, whatever the Sunday ticket package, but eventually you're like, the blackout rules are driving me insane and you're forcing me to steal. Same with the Reds. I'm like, yesterday I'm looking up all my options of what am I going to do? What investment am I going to make? And it's like, so you want me to steal the game. You want me to pirate illegally is what you want me to do. But there's a great Bengal bar here in LA up in the valley called Kantiki. So if you're ever in LA and you need to watch a Bengals game, you got to go to Kantiki. Marty Brenneman has been. Ooh. You know, we mobbed him. It's a good little spot. They serve, and I'm using air quotes here for the listeners only, skyline there. They get it all wrong, but they try, you know, and that's what you got to respect an attempt. They really flounder in the cheese, where it's like, oh, you got to not put it underneath a heat lamp. You know what I mean? You want a little fluffiness to that cheese, like something about a skyline dog at a Reds game though, where it's like perfectly fluffy cheese. Like, you got to have it. You got to have it. I love that. Are you on tour? You got shows coming up anywhere? Got shows. I'm going to be down in New Orleans. Shout out to the NOLA shirt. Love it. a big fan. Got married down there. Just love it.
It's amazing.
You know, second to only Athens, Ohio, in the OU Bobcat crowd.
That's it.
That's
I
right.
mean,
Where did you live?
I'm sure you considered getting married in Athens. I mean,
Hey,
it was on the list.
it was on the list. It was far down the list, but there was a consideration.
Yeah, my roommate got married in Athens. My OU roommate of 3 years got married. He was in my wedding. He got married 5 years after we graduated. I didn't even get an invite. Not even an invite.
Whoa.
And we were college roommates for 3 years.
Brutal.
Crazy. Where in New Orleans are you going to be? We started the plug. We did not quite finish it. And I will say from experience, I've had Growl Pals come out in many different cities across the country to shows, and that's always fun. So where are you going to be in New Orleans, or do you have other shows that you want to put out there for folks?
I'm touring around all the time. I'm in New Orleans in April. I forget when in April, but I'm in at Sports Drink. Very fun, very cool spot where the whole back of the stage is all the Gatorade coolers that you dump on a coach. So it's just all orange Gatorade thing. So all dumpables. Hopefully that happens to me mid-show. I'm going to be in Mobile, Alabama. I'm going to be doing Denver, Colorado coming up. I got a bunch of shows. You know what you should do? Go follow me on whatever doom scroll app is putting holes in your brain. I'm on there and I play and I always post what shows I'm doing. Or even LukeNull.com. Oh my gosh, that really lets you know where I'm going to be.
That's great. Love it.
That would be
Make sure everybody checks out Pretty Songs, Dirty Words too, right? I mean,
absolutely. Thank you for the extra plug. I have one last little trivia question for you guys because I feel like we're leading up into the draft area, and this is we're going to be covering draft stuff big time coming up. Now I know you're getting deep into it, and we're talking the lines, we're talking all that good stuff, but there's a low-key draft pick that is available to be drafted a second time that I think that Bengals fans should consider drafting again.
Oh, John Ross pulling out the John Ross 15 jersey. Wow.
The 15, a throwback. That's before he changed his number to get the mojo right.
Yeah, that didn't quite work. That might be the exact jersey he wore on his first touch when he fumbled in the preseason.
Now, I got a trivia question about number changes for you guys. Okay. This is a little fun for the Growl Pals out there too. We of course know as Bengals fans, 85 holds a special place in our hearts, right? And we know recently someone who changed their number from 85 because it didn't feel right. You know what I mean? Can you guys name for me the 4 players who have worn 85 since Chad Ochocinco in a game for the Bengals? 4 players.
Cam Grandy
last year. What I was thinking.
Was wearing it before that.
Most distinguished of those 4.
Someone changed their number. Oh, Eifert is another one. You're missing a biggie. You're missing a biggie who changed his number from 85.
T. We're counting T. Yeah, we were talking to T, and then who's the 4th one? That
number 4 is a tough one. Number 4 is the one that is a bit of a stumper. Now I'll give you a year. Will that help?
Yeah.
The year was 2012.
85 in the year 2012. Oh my God, you're putting me on the spot here. I got to try to pull this name. I mean, you had the receiver. Was it a receiver or a tight end?
It was a receiver.
They
caught a touchdown pass.
Oh, wow. It wasn't year of the Tater. You're in Sanu Marvin Jones territory there.
But this person played for UC.
Armand Binns, thank you. There you go. I shouldn't have needed that.
He was
I should
85?
have been able to pull Armand Binns.
Armand Binns.
He was 85. Yeah. No, Armand Binns. Pike to Binns. How could I have forgotten that? Good blast in the past there. Challenge me. Love it. Good trivia question.
I thought I'd come in with some hot trivia.
That was hot trivia. That was good stuff. Luke, man, the shirt is incredible. I think we need to see if you can get those printed. I mean, we need to get those distributed. I'd love to see some people wearing that at our live shows.
Oh, they're wild. Yeah.
Hard
subscribe.
That's great. Awesome. Well, thanks for joining. Good to catch up with you. And make sure everybody checks out the special Pretty Songs, Dirty Words, and wherever Luke is at, LukeNull.com. You can follow him.
Thank y'all for having me on.
Thank you. Have a good one. Thanks to Luke for catching up. Come on the show. Make sure everybody check out his special. You can find it on YouTube. It is Pretty Songs, Dirty Words. Go check that out. All right, Mark, where are you at? Speaking of comedy, where can people go see you next?
Oh yeah, so I've got some tour dates I've got to plug. April 3rd, I am in whatever that Thursday is. I think it's the 3rd in Hamilton at a place called The Hub. So you can go there and see me if you're a local Growl pal. And then I'm going to be in Richmond, Indiana, April 12th. And then April 23rd through 26th, I am at Comedy Key West in Florida. That's my turn as Florida guy, since that's just the big time of year for us going to Florida for work. And then later this year, I'm coming to Appleton, Wisconsin, and Las Vegas. So if you live in any of those cities, stay tuned for that later this year.
Did we ever get confirmation on an after-hours party at Jay's after your Hamilton show that we're going to go?
Yeah, I figured that we were going to surprise him either way, even if he wasn't aware or on board. Like, you were still going to lead the procession there. I don't know his address. I'm assuming you do, so you could take us there and just lead a procession of people from the Hub down to Jay's house.
Maybe we could rev the engines and ride our Lambos down to his house after the show.
Yeah, I'm going to be on the Jermaine Burton bike, I think, in that setup. I don't make quite as much as you two guys do with your Lambos, and that would be fun, though. We should all just kind of pool all our resources together, just, take out second mortgages on our house just to get a show Batmobile that we could take around to the live shows and take around the community.
It's in the budget. I like it. I think we're in a good place there. Dad life. What do you got going on for dad life?
So this has been a rare week for me, but I'm doing some solo parenting on spring break, which is not a great combination. So my wife is in New Orleans for a work conference all week. And so I have had to juggle everything myself. It's been fine. I want to clarify before I say this next thing that I do feed my children like real fruits and vegetables. But this week, because I'm also the soccer coach, it's soccer season. So I've had a soccer practice every single night of the week. So it's tough to take the kids there, find something for the other two to do, incorporate them into the practice, whatever. Everybody's cooked by 7. Then I've got to go home and figure out and cook a dinner. And that's a lot of work. So we did kind of punt on a few of them. We went to the grocery store after dropping my wife off at the airport, and we just kind of walked around like we were 4 divorced dads, just anything was getting thrown into that cart. It's like French toast sticks, let's go. French bread pizza, sure. Doritos, why not? Let's make it happen. And so it's been not the healthiest spring break for us, but we're getting through it, and that's the important thing.
Yeah, no, I've certainly had, because it was spring break week here, we came back. And, my wife's still working. And so I've had multiple times where it's like, okay, we're going to have a rule today and you guys can watch as much TV as you want. So I've got stuff to do. And then we're going to go to Skyline. Okay. Yeah. And tomorrow we're going to go out to breakfast too, because I don't really want to cook or do any of those things right now. And so I'm just going to take the easy button on that, which is there's nothing wrong with that. There should be no shame. There should be no shame in such things. Maybe a little shame.
Maybe a little bit, but, I one of the kids, I think the littlest one, the 5-year-old, for dinner just ate a few handfuls of shredded mozzarella cheese, so a few fistfuls of cheese. So that's the kind of thing that happens when mom's away. Yeah. Things slide a little bit. It's like, hey, if you want to have some fistfuls of cheese, this is your time to do it. You be you,
You don't want to be too good at solo parenting that it encourages you having to do it more, Yeah. So just send a picture. Send the picture to your wife of the handful of cheese going into the mouth and be like, things are going great here. You're not missed.
That's how good of a husband I am. Is I don't want her to feel bad that she can be so easily replaced. So I was thinking, do I clean the house before she gets home? No, because I don't want her to feel like she's not important to this process. She'll see the house as a wreck and she'll be like, oh my gosh, it's so good that I'm back here to stabilize this house again. And so that's just a nice thing that I'm doing for her, is not cleaning the house.
That is, you're a good guy.
What's going on in your world?
We just got back from Clearwater. It was a great vacation. We had a great time. And but there's one thing that's been sort of it's kind of been a funny development with my youngest. She's 5, and Do you know the song Pink Pony Club by Chappell Roan? You
I
heard
do.
it? It's quite popular.
It is very popular.
It is about her being a dancer in her heels on the stage at the Pink Pony Club. And it's a catchy little tune, right?
It is catchy.
And it's a very catchy tune. And she loves that song. Like, it's just, she's heard it. She likes it. She's learned all the words. And so we will walk into public places and Rosie will just start singing Pink Pony Club for all to hear out of nowhere. You don't even expect it. You're just walking into the ice cream shop and she's like, I'm going to keep on dancing at the Pink Pony Club. And I'm like, oh, this is not a good reflection on me as a father, is it? Like, there's definitely a lot of judgment going on about perhaps I'm not steering her in the proper direction, that she really likes singing about dancing on the stage in her heels at the Pink Pony Club. And so it's just a little bit of shame, again, more shame for me, but I appreciate it. Like I love that she loves the song and feels free to let it out. And she is a dancer at heart. Hopefully she would prefer like the ballet stage is kind of what I'm hoping. But I'm okay with it, but there's just there's looks from others as they're trying to gauge what exactly is happening here.
It's usually people without kids that are going to give you those judging looks, because people with kids, they know that awkward position where a kid is, like gets a catchy song that maybe isn't, they fully understand. They, keep throwing that stuff out. I've seen it with more like slang stuff that my oldest will pick up watching a YouTube video, or the worst part is just other kids in class. We talked about the Diddy parties last week and how the kids were talking about that. But like, we were at the grocery store and I had the same thing happen where like the oldest, she started saying Hawk Tua a lot. She's like, oh, everybody in class says it. And I'm like, how did Hawk Tua already make its way to the sixth grade? And, you get some stares when your little daughters are throwing that phrase around too.
How about this? We were on a cruise, like to go see dolphins or whatever. We get on this boat, and it wasn't very crowded. There were a couple kids on there. It was like noon, and so this one kid who was probably, I don't know, 10 years old, 9 years old, all sitting right next to us, all of a sudden goes, hey, do you guys know where Epstein Island is?
Oh man,
I kind of look at each other like, what is happening? And
that's crazy.
Like, really
yeah,
interrogating, really wanted to try to know. And I'm like, this is not. It was funny. We had just been talking about it the previous week. I was like, look at this. It's full circle moment.
And I was even trying to take it to the extreme for comedic purposes and say like, oh, what is this kid going to start talking about Epstein's Island? It's hilarious that actually literally happened to you days later on the boat. So he just hears about it enough too that he wants to find the island. Like that's the crazy. No kid should want to go to Epstein's Island if he knew enough about Epstein's Island. So it's
hard to know. Yeah, hard to know. I tried to stay out of that conversation as much as possible. Just look the other direction.
Good advice.
Oh, look, dolphins.
Yeah. Does anybody know any good songs we could sing about Pink Pony Clubs? Let's get away from the Epstein's Island talk.
Oh, man. All right. Thanks, everybody. I'll be in West Palm next week. So Monday, the show will probably be coming from I'll be doing the Mark impression of the awkward hotel room.
Stack those pillows.
Stack the pillows behind. And we'll be bringing you a little bit of what was said from the coaches' breakfast, and we'll talk about what Katie had to say next week on PD&J, and we're full into draft coverage as well. So look out for more draft stuff. We'll start diving into some of those conversations. So that'll be great. Make sure you check out Power Stacks too on Monday, and subscribe and go to their YouTube page, Power Stacks on YouTube, or subscribe wherever you get your podcast. So thanks everybody for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.